If you truly want to govern, where do you start? Not in the capital, not with grand policy papers. No, you start with the soil. You start by understanding the people, their struggles, their hopes. Today we're going deep into one single constituency, Aboi, in Nagaland, and we're going to see how a real data-driven diagnosis can create more than just a campaign plan. It can build a genuine blueprint for service. Let's begin.
So let's zoom in. Right here in the Mon district of Nagaland, this is Aboi. And to get a feel for this place, you first have to understand the Konyak Naga tribe. This isn't just a spot on a map for them, it's their home. They are people deeply tied to this land, with a proud history and a really unique social fabric. So governing here, well, it's not some abstract theory. It's an intimate conversation with a culture shaped by the land itself.
Now look at this number, 94.39%. That was the voter turnout here in the 2023 election. Think about that for a second. This isn't just a statistic. It's a statement. It tells you that these are people with an immense faith in the democratic process, no matter its flaws. It's a clear message to anyone who wants to lead. We are here, we are paying attention, and we expect you to serve.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get to the heartbeat of Aboi, the people, how they live, and what they really need. Then, we'll listen to what past elections are telling us. After that, we'll unpack a winning strategy using a four-part framework, and then lay out a real-world plan for earning back trust. And finally, we'll tie it all together, showing how this journey from data really leads to human dignity.
Okay, let's start with the people themselves. Because before we can talk about votes and winning margins, we have to understand what daily life is actually like in Aboi. What's the economy built on? What holds the society together? What are the things that keep people up at night?
To really get Aboi, you need to know two fundamental things. One, this is the land of the Konyak Naga. And two, it's a place of deep faith. Nearly 88% of the population is Christian. The economy is also built on one single truth, the land. About half of everyone working here works in agriculture. And that's not just a job, you see, it's a complete way of life. It shapes families, communities, everything. These are the pillars.
But demographics only tell you part of the story. The most important question for anyone in governance is this: what are the real, everyday problems? What are the things that make life harder than it needs to be? What drives someone to go out and vote, hoping for a change?
And this is what you hear on the ground. The issues aren't about big ideologies, they're about daily life. Roads so poor that cut off communities, especially that crucial road to the Longwa border. Electricity that's so unreliable a kid can't study at night. A lack of good schools and basic health care. And just not enough decent jobs outside the farm. These are the real hurdles that politics is supposed to solve. And this is where our constitutional promise of dignity really comes into play. Every single person has the right to be heard, and with that comes the responsibility to speak clearly about what their community needs.
Okay, so now we pivot. We've looked at the people's needs, now let's look at their political choices. To really understand today, you've got to look at yesterday. We're going to do a kind of forensic analysis of the last 7 elections here, because voting patterns, they're like the memory of an entire community, and they hold all the clues.
Just look at this timeline. It shows a pretty volatile history. The Naga People's Front, or NPF, has had quite a journey here. They won in 93, 03, 08, and again in 2018. But they lost in 13 and then again just recently in 23. The big takeaway here, Aboi is not a safe seat for anyone. Loyalty here isn't permanent, it's earned. And the voters have shown time and again they're willing to make a change.
And this right here, this chart tells a dramatic story. In 2018, the NPF just scraped by with a win, only 905 votes. That's a fragile victory. But fast forward 5 years to 2023, and that win turns into a decisive loss by over 3,500 votes. Now that's not a random fluctuation. That is a loud and clear signal from the voters. Their support has to be earned and re-earned every single term.
So what's going on underneath all this? It's a classic story, really. On the one hand, the NPF has some serious strengths. Deep roots in the community, a strong tribal network, and a leadership that people generally see as clean. These are powerful things. But they're up against some big challenges. They have less funding compared to the big national alliance, and they don't have as strong a digital game to reach the younger crowd. It's the grassroots organization versus the modern political machine.
So, given this really complex picture, voter needs on one side, political realities on the other, how do you even start to build a strategy that works? Well, we use a framework, sometimes called the Chatramuka Doctrine. It's just a simple way to look at the 4 critical parts of any political contest.
Let's walk through it. First up is the party and the candidate. In a place like Aboi, the person who wins has to be seen as a community guardian. This isn't about being the loudest or the richest. It's about being seen as a trusted elder, someone who will protect the community's culture, its interests, its future. Credibility built over a lifetime is worth more than any campaign war chest.
Second, you have to understand the voters and the social fabric. Any winning message has to do two things at once. It has to honor the soul of the Konyak people, their faith, their traditions, but it also has to build a bridge to the future. It has to speak to the hopes of women and young people who are looking for education, for skills, for a life of opportunity beyond the farm.
The third domain, the issues. This is where the rubber meets the road. Forget the big, empty slogans. What really cuts through the noise are believable, bankable promises that fix those core problems we talked about. People need to see a real plan to fix the roads, to get the lights to stay on, to build better schools, and to create real jobs. Development is the most powerful message there is.
And finally, the competition. The NDA alliance has huge resources, so how does a regional party like the NPF compete? You have to frame the choice very clearly. You position yourself as the true champion of Naga interests, of local control. You make the election about Aboi's future, decided by the people of Aboi, not by some calculation made far away.
So, analysis is one thing, but what about action? How do you take all this understanding and turn it into a real-world plan? Let's look at the blueprint for service, a 90-day ladder built not just to win, but to rebuild that connection with the people from the ground up. The whole plan unfolds in 3 very deliberate steps. The first 30 days are all about listening. A Chalogam, a go-to-the-village tour, not to give speeches, but to actually listen and document people's problems. Then, days 31 to 60 are for quick, visible action. Launch small projects that people can see, proving that you actually heard them. And finally, the last 30 days are for the final push, getting everyone organized and motivated by this new sense of purpose.
And at the absolute core of this entire blueprint is one simple, powerful promise. Ami ki seva karibo. We will serve you. This isn't just a campaign slogan, it's a fundamental shift in purpose. It moves the conversation away from power and personality and puts it squarely on service. It's a promise designed to rebuild trust, one village at a time.
And this brings us to our final, and maybe our most important point. Because all this data, all the analysis, all the frameworks, they aren't the goal. They're just the tools, and they have to be used for a much higher purpose.
So, what have we learned from this deep dive into Aboi? First, you have a deeply engaged electorate that you simply cannot take for granted. Second, loyalties here are not set in stone, which means accountability is a daily job, not just a once every 5 years event. And third, you see the incredible power of a local-first, service-first strategy that starts with listening. And when we use information to understand people, it's critical we do so respectfully. Under India's legal framework, personal data requires consent. The point of this kind of work is not to target voters, but to better understand their needs so we can serve them with their full knowledge.
And this, right here, is the ultimate vision. The goal of all this work isn't just about winning an election. It's about building a model of governance that actually responds to people's needs, a system that's accountable for its promises, and a leadership that truly honors the faith that the people of Aboi show when they turn out to vote at almost 95%. The real mission is to turn data not just into votes, but into dignity.
And that leaves us with the challenge, doesn't it? The principles we've seen at work in Aboi, deep listening, understanding through facts, and a real commitment to service, these ideas aren't unique to Nagaland. They can work anywhere. So the question we should all be asking is, how can this same approach transform governance in other places, maybe even in our own? If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 080-420-41602. Purpose beyond politics.